Hello everyone, this is Voices by Her. I remain Esther Adeyinka. On today's episode, we have a very interesting letter. However, our previous stories got some very interesting comments and advice from experts. I'll be sharing the comments at the end of this story. Kindly stay tuned. On today's episode, we have an anonymous letter titled, "I Thought I Had Time." It's a true life experience shared with honesty and reflection. I used to believe consequences were for other people. You know the kind of belief I mean? The one that sits quietly in your chest when you're young and feel untouchable. The kind that makes you think, that won't happen to me. I'm different. I'm smarter. I'll stop before it gets too far. I was wrong. I grew up in Ibadan, Nigeria, in a home that was strict, religious, and predictable. Every Sunday we sat in the third row at church. Every evening my father read scripture before dinner. My mother's voice was the alarm clock that never failed. Sharp, certain, always on time. My parents weren't bad people. They loved us in the only way they knew how. Through structure, through rules, through silence when words felt too heavy. But they were busy trying to survive, busy managing a business that barely broke even, busy keeping up appearances in a community that measured success by what you owned and who you knew. I was the quiet child, the obedient one, the girl who never caused trouble, never talked back, never asked for too much. Teachers loved me. Neighbors pointed me out as an example. See that one? That's how a girl should behave. I wore that label like an armor. But beneath it, I was lonely. When I got admission to a private university in Lagos, everyone celebrated. My mother cried happy tears for once. My father shook my hand like I was already a graduate. The women at church congratulated me and said, "God has done it." They said I was finally free. I didn't know how much those words would shape my life. Freedom tasted sweet at first. Lagos was nothing like Ibadan. It moved faster, talked louder, demanded more. The campus was beautiful. Manicured lawns, air-conditioned lecture halls, students who drove their own cars and spoke about their parents' connection like it was normal. I felt small at first, overwhelmed, like I didn't belong. Then I met Sandra. She lived in the room next to mine. She wore confidence like perfume, bold, expensive, impossible to ignore. Her laughter filled always. Our opinions shaped conversations. People orbited around her. And somehow she chose me. "Why are you always so serious?" she asked one Friday evening, leaning against my door frame. "Come out with us tonight. Leave a little." I hesitated. I had a test on Monday. I had never been to a party before. I didn't even know what to wear, but I went. That first night we drove to Lekki in someone's father's Range Rover. The music was loud. The club was packed with people who looked like they'd never worried about anything in their lives. Bottles of champagne appeared at tables like magic. Girls danced like nobody was watching. Boys spent money like it would multiply by morning. I stood in the corner at first, awkward and out of place. Then Sandra handed me a drink. "Relax," she said, smiling. "You are in Lagos now." The first time I drank alcohol, it was vodka mixed with cranberry juice. I hated the taste. Sharp, bitter, burning my throat. But I love how light I felt afterwards. How the noise in my head got quieter. How I could laugh without overthinking. How for once I didn't feel small. That night turned into next weekend. Then the weekend after that. Soon it became routine. Classes felt optional. Assignments could wait. There was always another party, another link-up, another reason to stay out until sunrise. My grades didn't collapse all at once. B's turning into C's. Attendance warnings I brushed off. Group projects I contributed to at the last minute. I told myself I was fine. I was still passing. I was still managing. I didn't realize I was already losing control. By second year, the crowd had shifted. Sandra introduced me to a new group. People who didn't just party on weekends, they lived on the edge every day. Older guys who had businesses they never explained. Girls who traveled every month and came back with designer bags. Everyone seemed to have money, connections, and secrets. Someone introduced weed at a beach hangout in Ilashe. "It's natural," they said, passing a joint like it was nothing. Even Oyibo people smoke it legally now. Everyone does it. I hesitated. I remembered every anti-drug campaign from secondary school, every warning from my parents, every story I'd heard about people who spoiled their lives. But I also remembered how boring those warnings felt, how disconnected from the real world, how nobody in this circle seemed damaged or broken. They seemed free, so I tried it. At first, it just made me giggle, relaxed, present. The constant anxiety I'd carried since childhood, the fear of disappointing people, of not being enough, it melted away. I started smoking regularly, before classes, after exams, when I couldn't sleep, when I couldn't focus. It became my rest button. By my third year, I had stopped going to most of my classes. I'd show up for tests if I remembered. I'd submit assignments if the deadline was hard. But I was no longer the obedient girl from Ibadan. I was someone else entirely. That was when I met Femi. Femi was older, 34 to my 21. Smooth, charming, always traveling between Lagos, Abuja, and London. He drove a black Mercedes, wore expensive watches, and never seemed stressed about money. He noticed me at a lounge in Victoria Island, bought me a drink, asked thoughtful questions, paid for things he never asked questions. When he suggested a trip to Dubai, I didn't think twice. Dubai felt unreal. The lights, the money, the illusion of importance. I met Nigerians, Ghanaians, British Africans, all living fast, spending faster. That was where cocaine entered my life. Quietly, casually, like a secret everyone already knew. I told myself I was just experimenting. I didn't know experimentation could turn into dependency. When my parents called, I ignored their questions. When school sent warnings, I deleted the emails. I graduated barely. By 26, I had lived in 3 countries: Nigeria, the UAE, and the UK. On Instagram, my life looked beautiful. In reality, I was tired, anxious, and constantly running from myself. The crash came in London. One night, alone in my apartment in Peckham, I realized I hadn't slept properly in days. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. I thought I was dying. At the hospital, the doctor asked about my lifestyle. I lied, but my body told the truth anyway. Recovery was humiliating. I moved back to Nigeria at 29, with nothing to show for years of freedom. No savings, no stable relationships, no clear direction. Friends had moved on. Some were married. Some were settled. I moved back into my childhood room. Same walls, same silence, different shame. The hardest part wasn't quitting substances. It was facing the girl I had abandoned. The one with dreams, discipline, and hope. Today I am 34. I work a modest job. I attend therapy. I take responsibility for my past without letting it define my future. I am rebuilding slowly, quietly, and honestly. If you are young and listening to this, some choices don't scream when you make them. They whisper. And by the time they demand your attention, they've already taken years from you. This letter is not meant to scare you. It's meant to awaken. If this story stirred something in you, may it guide you towards wiser choices, honest conversations, and timely help. It's never too late to rebuild, but it's always better to choose wisely early. If you lived a life you regret and you are struggling silently, Letters to Voices by Her is open to you. Healing begins with honesty. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Like I promised earlier, I'm going to be reading the comments and advice we got from our experts. This response is for Aisha from our previous episode. Dr. Nnenka Okoye, a clinical psychologist, trauma and identity. She said, silence does not protect emotional well-being. It often deepens the wound. When pain is repeatedly swallowed, it turns inward. Speaking up early, even imperfectly, can prevent years of internal harm. Thank you, Dr. Ninka, for this nice comment. From Amara Bello. She is a relationship and life counselor. She said, outgrowing a space does not mean you failed in it. Remaining in environments that diminish you can slowly erode your sense of self. Growth sometimes requires difficult exits, not endurance. Thank you, Amara Bello, for this beautiful advice. I'm sure Aisha listened. Also, for our second letter, titled, I Loved Two People and Lost Myself. The writer preferred to be anonymous. I believe you're listening. Dr. Tolu is a physiotherapist, marriage and emotional health. She said, emotional neglect is a warning sign, not a character flaw. Loneliness within a relationship deserves honest attention. When unmet needs are ignored, people often seek connection in ways they never planned. Thank you, Dr. Tolu, for that beautiful advice. Dr. Kemi Larson, a licensed counselor and healing coach, she said, unspoken pain always finds an outlet. The question is how destructive it becomes. Choosing honesty, support, and difficult conversations early can prevent irreversible damage later. Thank you, Kemi Lawson, for this beautiful advice. Thank you, everyone, for these comments. I look forward to seeing your comments and reactions on today's stories, and we also look forward to expert advice for today's writer. If you have a story you would like us to share to the world, please feel free to write to us at VoicesByHer@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, like, and share. We believe we can impact lives even by sharing this content. Until next time, when I'll come your way, I remain Esther Adeyinka, and this is Voices by Her.